Hey, what's up? Jason here from Unity3D.College. Today I wanted to answer a question that I hear a lot from new developers, and that's, is Unity the right choice for me? Is this the engine that I should be using, or should I be doing something else? Should I go with one of the alternatives, or should I just really dive in and learn Unity, and if so, why? And it may come as no surprise that, of course, most of the time I say yes. I mean, look at the channel, look at the title. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Unity, but I didn't want to just say yes and leave it at that. I really wanted to kind of dive into why it's usually the best choice for these new developers when I'm talking to them. Now, I want to start off by saying that there are some cases where it's definitely not. For instance, if you have really no desire to learn how to code at all, don't even want to learn the basics, and you just want to drag and drop things, build a story that's of a simple template, a very standardized game, which is nothing wrong with that at all. But there are systems out there and engines out there that will allow you to do that and focus completely on the story, not so much on the gameplay and building your own custom game, more on building a story inside their game, or mods for games too. Another great way to kind of get going with this stuff if you're not really interested in learning any of the coding side. Also, if you want to do some really crazy, cutting edge, bleeding edge stuff and you really love C++, it's probably not a good choice either. But other than that, I think it's usually the best option for new developers or even experienced developers who want to build a game and they don't already have a workflow and a team and an engine selected and going. So what are the reasons for this? Well, the first one that I think is pretty obvious is just that there's a ton of information out there to learn the engine and learn how to use it, how to build games, and how to do it right. I mean, just about any game that you want to build, especially if it's a mobile game, something relatively small scale, you can probably find a step-by-step walkthrough in Unity of how to build that exact game. You can use that as a starting point and then kind of learn and experiment from there and build your own thing from that. And this isn't just, sample projects. There's a ton of documentation. There are a lot of YouTube channels out there, blogs out there, all kinds of just great resources for learning Unity. And I can't say the same about any other engine that I've used. And I've used quite a few of them in the past. Usually the documentation is pretty sparse. The forums are relatively dead and not very helpful. And there's just not a lot of info out there. I can remember struggling a lot with previous engines and previous systems, just trying to figure things out and trying to find people who knew how everything was working and how to tie it all together right. Now, information is great, but there are a lot of other reasons that I really love Unity too. One of those is just the memory management. And people will say, you do have to manage your memory in Unity still. You have to avoid allocating a bunch of stuff constantly and then hitting the garbage collector. And this is much more of a constraint on mobile devices and consoles. If you're working in Windows or just building PC games, it's, I'd say, very low priority because the garbage collector is a lot faster and it's not so much an issue. But on those other ones, it is a bit of a problem. But that's nothing compared to the memory management issues when you're working in your own engine, a custom engine, even something like Unreal. I can remember countless times where things blew up just because of bad memory management. I can remember teams spending weeks trying to track down memory leaks, memory overwrites, all kinds of stuff. In Unity, usually the biggest problem that you'll run into, again, is just that garbage collection issue, which is pretty easy to address, and again, primarily only applies to mobile and console systems. And it's also worth noting that even when you have those issues in your game's still going to work, right? You're going to hit this garbage collector, it's going to get a little spike, and it may even be a spike that doesn't bother you or isn't big enough to matter. But in the other systems or other engines that I've used, when we have memory issues and the game is crashing, it's blowing up, we're getting bad behavior, we're running out of memory because it's just leaking. Of course, you technically could screw all this stuff up in Unity too, but it's a whole lot harder, and it's kind of, I feel it's almost like safe by default. Of course, memory management's not the only thing. dealing with that's always a problem. But there are other things that always drove me a little bit more crazy in other engines that I've used. And the biggest one is just the iteration time. Now, when I first started real professional game development, builds of the game I was working on, a full build could take anywhere from 45 minutes to 4 hours, depending on how many other systems your system was able to take control of and build on. We used Incredibuild, which does distributed builds across multiple computers, and there are hundreds of systems in the office all linked up, so you do a build and it just kind of farm it off. Now with Unity, I can't think of a build that's ever come even close to that. Even when I do really big builds of projects that are very large, they're still not at 30 minutes. Now, the majority of the time, I'm in the editor, and I just hit play, and I mean, we can do it right here. See that stuff just generally builds and starts up really quick. It does some good compilation tricks in there to not have to rebuild the whole thing, unlike almost every alternative that I've used, where the entire thing needs to be rebuilt, or at least a big chunk needs to be rebuilt, and then it takes a very long time. It's also a whole lot easier to debug in Unity than pretty much every other system. It's super simple to just attach in Visual Studio, step right through, and not really run into many issues. Now, this may be simple in some other engines now, but every time I did it in the past with previous ones, it was always a giant pain. Of course, iteration time, I'm sure, is no faster in any other thing than Unity. It's by far the quickest. If I want to make a quick change, go in and restart, super quick, super fast. And it's a huge time saver. And then staying on that subject of time savers, the asset store. Now this is something that a lot of people just don't really realize the value of, I think, when they first get started. But there's so much available just in this little tab that you can just bring into a project and kind of kickstart your game off with immediately. Everything from the completed project samples, where you go, just grab this project and you have a working game to start building from and start exploring and seeing how they did things, to just 3D models. I mean, look at that. What is it? 23,162 as of right now, 3D models up there. And there are a good amount of them that are free. And to be honest, the ones that aren't free, this is 1,600 free ones. The ones that aren't free are still just dirt cheap. I mean, if you went and tried to hire people to make these art assets, you're talking a ton of money. And in Unity, it's as simple as just click, grab it, import it, and it'll probably just work. The asset store has saved me, I don't know how much time, and made games just better all around. I mean, everything from making the text beautiful, pulling in nice, awesome particles, and it really, I think, democratizes game development. It makes it so that anybody, even people without a big giant team and multi-million-dollar budgets, can get in there and make their game. Now, it may not be the perfect game, may not be the perfect asset or whatever, but you can actually build the game and have it there and have it actually work and look good at the same time. And then that game can look good on just about any platform, which is another thing I really love about Unity. In fact, it's what got me started with Unity, just the ability to build out to mobile. They were kind of the first engine to support it. And if you look at the build options, let's do that. Let's just go in. You just go to File, Build Settings, and just take a quick look. You see there are quite a few options down here, but there are a lot of options that aren't even listed in here. Like, this is only Xbox One. We can build out to Xbox 360. We can build out to the previous PlayStations. We can build out to a Wii. Linux is even in here. I mean, I'm not on Linux right now. But just the sheer number of build targets in here and the minimal amount of work required to actually switch and have your project work on those is amazing. I mean, I've seen teams spend months or years trying to add console support for their game, and here it's just relatively simple. Go in, click it. Now on a console you may have to do a little bit of extra work. In fact, you usually do, but on everything else it's almost kind of straightforward. Click it, hit it, done. Now the other thing I guess I want to talk about, and I think this is the most important part, is just the fact that when you're working in Unity, it's very different from working in a project where you have kind of your own engine. Now, if you've never worked with your own engine before, you may not realize that you have to create all of these things. So everything that's available in Unity, everything that's on any of these windows that you can bring in, or you want to bring in special camera controls like Cinemachine, you want to deal with collisions and all that. If you build your own engine, you have to code all of that stuff. If you use some lower level frameworks, you have to code some subset of it, and it's a good amount of stuff that you have to create yourself. I'm thinking like if you just, starting, what's the last one that I used? Probably X and A, right? So if you're using something like that, you still have to create a lot of the systems. You just have a rendering platform, maybe an input platform. In Unity, you just have so much stuff available that you can just focus on the gameplay. You just focus on, like, this is the game I want to build. This is how it plays. These are the characters. This is the story. I'm going to put that together, and all the other crap is already done. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about setting up a collision system. It's already there. Like, I don't, I guess there's a ton of stuff. And it's really hard, I think, to get across the amount of stuff that you have to do if you don't have a fully featured engine like Unity or Unreal. And like I said, with Unity, I think it's the simplest option to just get going and really just build your own game. So there you have it. The answer is pretty much yes. Unity is probably the right choice for you if you're looking to get started in game development, or you just want to build out a game and you don't really want to build an engine, you want to build a game. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notify, whatever other stuff you have to do on YouTube today. And that's all.